I fully believe that I am my brother's keeper. Love thy neighbor as thyself.
90-year-old Arnold Abbott prepares hundreds of meals each week for the homeless in the kitchen of the Sanctuary Church. But Abbott's work now has him in trouble with the law.
Why is he being arrested?
Shame on you! Shame on you!
One of the police officers came over and said, "Drop that plate right now." And so I was carrying a weapon.
Mayor Jack Seiler warned arrests were coming.
We enforce the laws here in Fort Lauderdale.
It's man's inhumanity to man.
We just, you have to kind of let people know about, whether it's government officials, police, or just the public, that we have rights in America, and that's what it's about. It's about education.
As long as he has that fishing pole in his hand and he says he's going fishing, he can carry a firearm on him.
Okay.
An open firearm?
Open carry firearm.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Contrary to popular belief, tyrants don't create tyranny and oppression. It happens when the people are apathetic and indifferent to liberty, and tolerant and obedient to tyrants. And there's a general mantra that we hear from the mouths of those who bow down and lick the boots of those tyrants. And that is that there are just a few bad apples spoiling the whole bunch. Most cops are good, they say. They've convinced themselves that people can handle power and authority and a monopoly on force without being consumed by it. Even though experience tells every single one of us that the people who have power don't deserve it, and those who deserve power don't want it. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely is not just a clever sounding saying, it's reality. And what we're going to do in this video is present you with real stories of real people being victimized by law enforcement psychopaths, federal, state, or local. It doesn't matter. Who are more interested in abolishing freedom than securing it. More interested in victimizing people than protecting them. Look at every one of these stories and you'll discover that not only were the people who were victimized by the police not doing anything wrong, in many cases, they were doing the right things as they walked in and exercised their constitutionally protected rights. Schaefer Cox remains a political prisoner to this day because he dared to teach people about liberty and exposed government corruption. The FBI sent in agent provocateurs to spy on Schaefer and attempted to get him to agree to commit an act of violence for which they could arrest him. Schaefer never agreed to their plan, but he was still sentenced to 26 years for conspiracy to kill federal agents. 73-year-old Karen Garner, suffering from advanced dementia, forgot to pay for some items in Walmart and was abused by officers Austin Hopp and Daria Jalali from the Loveland Police Department. They broke her arm, dislocated her shoulder, and threw her into a cage, while surveillance video from the police station shows Loveland police officers laughing, mocking, and exchanging fist bumps as they review the body cam footage of them busting Garner. Homeless man James Boyd was mercilessly killed by the Albuquerque Police Department in New Mexico for the horrible crime of living in the foothills of the Sandia Mountains. While rapes, murders, and thefts run rampant in the streets of New York City, NYPD police officer Daniel Pantalello figured that he'd do his part to stop the horrible crime of selling single cigarettes and decided to go ahead and choke out Eric Gardner until he expired. While attempting to follow Officer Geronimo Yena's command to produce ID, Philando Castile received 7 close-range shots for his trouble from a St. Anthony, Minnesota Police Department firearm. And speaking of following commands, Daniel Shaver was fatally shot by Officer Philip Brailsford from the Mesa Police Department in the hallway of a La Quinta Inn after having committed no crime. Before he was gunned down, body camera evidence clearly shows Daniel was trying his best to follow the officer's rapid-fire commands in his clearly nervous and terrified state. Officer Brailsford was later acquitted. Johnny Wheatcroft, a passenger in a car sitting in a hotel parking lot, a man who had committed no crime, was tased 11 times, once in the groin, and was thrown onto the 108-degree hot pavement, handcuffed and held down in front of his screaming and distraught children by Officer Matt Schneider and his buddies in the Glendale, Arizona Police Department. And I know you're not going to believe this, but nearly everything in the police report was later revealed by video camera evidence to be a lie. And how many times has Solo Yacker, aka the armed fisherman, been harassed, abused, threatened, and arrested simply for exercising his clearly constitutional right to be armed and openly carrying down there in Florida? Recently, Big G Audits became the victim of police retaliation when he exposed one of their sergeants who was courageously and justly speeding to satisfy his urge to fill his gut with junk food at a local fast food drive-thru. The Kingsport Police Department and the Sullivan County Sheriff's Department decided to converge and swatted Big G and his family at 5 o'clock in the morning because they don't like it when cameramen expose them for their hypocrisy and criminal activity. In 1992, outspoken anti-government corruption activist Randy Weaver and his family found out the hard way that this really isn't the land of the free and the home of the brave, when federal agents descended on his property in Ruby Ridge, killing his wife, his son, and his dog, and took him to prison for years. Much later, he was acquitted and was awarded $3.1 million. And the Branch Davidians discovered the same murderous tendency of federal agents a year after Ruby Ridge, when ATF and FBI agents ended the lives of 76 members, including 20 children, while mainstream media cameras were rolling. In 2019, supposedly responding to a swatting call by a neighbor on Harding Street who reported seeing a girl spun out on heroin and machine guns in the home, the Houston Police Department initiated a no-knock raid on a house, killing Dennis Tuttle, Regina Nicholas, and their dog. 5 officers also sustained injuries, and nearly everything in the police report was a bald-faced lie. In 2015, 17-year-old Devin Guilford, on his way to his girlfriend's house, was pulled over by Eaton County Sergeant Jonathan Frost for flashing his high beams, because Frost had his high beams on. Guilford was shot and killed, and the family settled a lawsuit for $2.4 million. Dallas police officer Amber Geiger shot and killed 26-year-old accountant Botham John in his own apartment in 2018. Geiger claimed that she thought he was in her apartment. In January of 2022, 28-year-old Christopher Cabrera of the Houston Police Department, who was not in pursuit or responding to an emergency, slammed into the side of 75-year-old Charles Payne's Cadillac CTS, ending his life. 120 days in jail, $1,431 in fines and fees, and years of probation are the punishments laid to the account of 78-year-old Norma Thornton of Bullhead City, Arizona. What the heck did Norma do to deserve that? Did Norma kill somebody? Was she a threat to her community? Was she abusing children? None of the above. Norma's crime was that she was feeding the poor in Bullhead City. And before taking Thornton into custody, an officer can be heard on his body camera saying that the impending arrest was going to be a, quote, PR nightmare.
I think this is a PR nightmare, but okay.
And he definitely wasn't wrong about that. But being the order follower that he was, and even knowing the wrong that he was doing, he arrested her anyway. And that, my friends, sums up the danger of order followers. Meanwhile, in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, police were busy arresting 90-year-old Arnold Abbott for doing the same thing, feeding the homeless. Now, I could cite case after case, cop after cop, victim after victim, and we'd be here for a long time. Case after case where cops who are supposed to be protecting and serving the public are busy harassing, collecting from, and terrorizing them. Just generally abusing their authority and being all around bad people. None of this would ever fly if you or I did the same things. But their qualified immunity given to them by their buddies in the corrupt court system speeds the corrupting influence at work in their hearts already from the power they possess. Share this video with everybody you know and let them know about the reality of the dangers of law enforcement. And while you're at it, subscribe to this channel and like this video. It really helps overcome the algorithms. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video. That is, if I don't become the next political prisoner.